Okay, so this is the video on the 11th episode of the Flash Season 5, and all in all it's a good episode. I know I've seen some people that have apparently not been so keen on it. That's fair enough. I think everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But I thought it was a good episode. There was some cool parts of it, like the Flash Museum. Actually getting to see that was quite cool. Then there was the Red Death thing, which I thought was quite cool. And yeah, I get why people are saying that there isn't much in it, which to be fair there isn't. But yeah, I thought it was still good. So first up is they all start off at the ice rink, a local ice rink, and they're basically just sort of like having a nice little like family get together. And it's one of those things where it's like, I watched a Twitch stream of some really good like people that do the same sort of the same stuff except much better than I do. If you want to look it up, it's Eligible Monster, and they said that on it they think that Nora was supposed to be written as 16, but then they realised that the newspaper dates and stuff like that wouldn't match up with that. Which, when you think about it, does make sense, because the way that she's acting is very much like, oh, I'm pouting here because my dad's mad at me or whatever. But I do see where they're coming from that, and I do agree with it. But yeah, so they are at the ice rink and they're having fun and stuff, and they're basically getting a Sherlock, or I'm just going to call it Sherlock because that's what it is. I get it's a joke, but I'm not finding it very funny. I just don't really get it. I think it's kind of pointless. Yeah, Sherlock gets an alert on his phone saying that he is like something's arrived from his Earth, and it's basically this memory machine that allows them to go into the mind of someone that's like in a coma. And I think I really like the plan to appeal to Cicada's human side by waking up his niece to try and like appeal to his human side that they came up with last episode. But obviously it doesn't go to plan because basically they say that they need to plant this like little receiver to get into Grace's mind, and it's good and it works, but Nora then decides to go in by herself because she doesn't want to see her dad to see her memories, because I think it's because there's something else going on with her, more with like Reverse Flash and Eobard Thawne and stuff, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what they are doing with that, because the only thing that I can think of is that Nora was trained by him after she got mad at future Iris for taking away her powers with the metahuman dampening chip. That's what I think happened, but it makes sense, but I don't know where they're going with it, because they're not going to make Reverse Flash a hero. They're just not. If they did, they would get the enormous amount of backlash from everybody. And he as much as he was saying, Barry was saying in a couple of episodes ago, I think it was in like the Flash and the Furious or whatever it was, saying, oh yeah, everyone can change. Yeah, people can change, I believe that as well, but doesn't mean that he is the Reverse Flash. He's killed a lot of people, and the timeline for that sort of stuff doesn't make much sense for Reverse Flash. But I always think what happened was, when he was erased in the first season because Eddie shot him, he sort of like managed to escape that little part somehow. I've no idea how, but that's the only reason I can think of for him to have all his memories back from when he was in Legends and stuff like that. Yeah, so then it goes, so Nora goes into Cicada's memories, and not Cicada's memories, sorry, Grace's memories, Cicada's niece, grabs her and says, yeah, okay, job done, let's go. Portal closes though, so, and the reason, they give the reason for that being they're basic, right, I've been told that I need to slow down and be more clear by everybody, like all of my friends and everything that have watched this, so that's what I'm going to do now. So, Grace's brain is basically treating Nora as a parasite, so creating antibodies and defences to keep her away. And it does that by making Cicada appear and closing the portal. Which I guess that makes sense. Obviously another brains are going to want another personality in it, so they're going to want to keep her away. So she goes speeding off, trying to find the portal, doesn't happen, and it's the sort of thing where it's like, yeah, just keep it like as it is, and we need to find the portal. But then so once Barry, Iris and everyone else find out that Nora's gone in on her own, which Sherlock suggests they didn't because his version of Watson basically went into a mortal zone and found him the next day brain dead. So that happened. So she goes in to try and so Barry and Iris go into the memory, Grace's mind, try and go into Grace's mind and pull Nora and her out, but they can't do that because it's because they get deflected into Nora's mind instead. And it's the sort of thing where it's like, yeah, fair enough, that makes sense. And this actually opens up a load of cool things. So a few things that happened in the episode were that, like, they basically, Barry and Iris go into her memories and find that she kept running away from Iris as a kid. Police found her and took her in, but then she ran off again and goes to the Flash Museum, which I loved. The Flash Museum was so good. I wish I could have seen. I just want to see more of it. I want to see them actually go into the future, not just into her memories. I want to see them go into the future and see the actual Flash Museum itself. I think that would be quite cool. And something that happens is that they go into, I think it's like the gift shop. Barry and Iris go to like the gift shop, and they find bobbleheads, flash rings, flash action figures, all of that. And also, actually, they also find younger Nora, which Barry actually brings up an interesting point, that this will be the only time that he gets to see her like that, because obviously he disappears before she can actually has any memories of him. And that's quite sad. But she's also reading a comic. I couldn't find, from what I could gather, it was like Cicada's first appearance, or like first proper appearance in the 90s or something like that. So yeah, that's kind of cool that they have that in there. I'm imagining in that world that, like, I'm just trying to imagine someone pitch that. Yeah, so this tragedy has happened. The Flash is gone, but I really want to do a comic book about it. Plus a serial killer who's still killing people. Sure, go ahead. That's a great idea. I mean, obviously, I know it's just an Easter egg, but in the context of that, it doesn't make much sense. It's like someone trying to make a comic about a million terrible things that happen in the world at the moment. But yeah, so they go to that. Then they go into the Hall of Villains, where they find Nora standing over Cicada's display, which obviously is just a newspaper and like a tablet type thing, explaining who Cicada is. So what it actually said is that Cicada vanished a couple of years before, in the proper timeline at the moment, the one where Nora comes from. He disappeared and then came back when Barry disappeared in 2025. I believe that's when it, like, what the newspaper says. And what I think happened in this is that I don't think it's the same Cicada. So I think that they do stop him, but I think that then Grace, the niece, picks up, because at the end of the episode she's sitting in her mind just sort of saying, Nora lied to me, I'm going to take revenge, because she seems to hate Metas just as much as Cicada himself, because her parents were actually killed in a Meta attack, which now they've brought that in, I think it makes a much more sense of why this all happened, because it wouldn't make sense personally to me, I don't think it would make much sense that the satellite would crash and he would suddenly get an anger for Metas, but once seeing a newspaper. Yes, I know Metas DeVoe caused the satellite to crash, which makes it so that it is Meta's fault, but still I just think it's interesting that that's how they did it. But then it goes on and says on Cicada's display, that's where I was. On Cicada's display, it's very interesting that it actually says that you get a picture of what seems like an older Captain Singh, and it actually says that he actually is doing an interview on him, saying, and he says the Flash did everything he could, but Cicada killed more people than Zoom, and also more people than the Red Death. Now, the Red Death is actually a very interesting thing, because in the comics, right, he is basically Bruce Wayne from the Dark Multiverse, and Barry Allen from that Dark Multiverse have basically merged, because from what I remember of the comic, it was a while ago, but I believe Batman basically gets all of the Rogue's like gadgets, like Captain Cold's Cold Gun, Mr. Mirror Master's Mirror Gun, and Weather Wizard's Wand, and stuff like that, and he uses it all to just basically beat him, and he does. But what he does is, instead of just killing him, Batman straps Barry to the front of the Batmobile. And he basically drives them into the Speed Force. And what it does is it basically merges them into one, so that Batman is basically a Flash. It's really cool design. I'll try and see if I can picture it up. If I can, I'm going to do a short break. Yeah, so the design's just basically a bat with a lightning bolt in it, and he runs, instead of lightning, he runs bats, which doesn't make much sense if you ask me, but still, it's cool. But yeah, so does this mean that we're going to get a Red Death in the show? I'm not sure about that. The only reason it would be is because it is Bruce Wayne and Barry Allen merged into one, and the only thing that's left of Barry is conscious in Bruce's mind. And this is a Batman that has basically been crushed by. I don't think they go into the full origin of it, but I think if they do, then just let me know. But I think what it is basically just this Batman has been brought down so low, so that he has done this and he can stop the most criminals. And it's probably what it is the Joker's massacred someone or something like that. I'm not saying that's what it is, I'm saying that's what it probably is. So one of his villains killed a lot of people and he just got sick of it, so he decided to merge with Barry. So that's why I don't think they can do it in the show, at least that exactly, because if they were going to do Red Death, then they would have to do Batman. And I know we have Batwoman in it, and I know we have Batman in it in the Arrowverse technically now. And I just don't see them doing Red Death just because it's. I can see them doing a version of it, so an evil version of Barry from the multiverse, another evil version of Barry. But I don't think they could do it for a full season. They wouldn't. I don't think they should do that, just because it would be a rehash of Savitar. So an evil version of Barry comes back comes instead of from the future, comes from another world and tries to kill everyone. But I think I could see them doing it in maybe the crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Maybe that Barry having not a cameo because I don't think they would do that, but like a nice little like part with the Red Death in it, which I think would be quite cool. But then to get off that, Iris Nora's still watching the display, but then Iris, being really mad at her, comes in saying, "Yeah, no, I'm a reporter. That's my job to find people." And Nora's just like, "Stop being a reporter and start being my mum." And it's just basically showing Barry and Iris how bad a mother that Nora perceives them to be. Perceives the key word here, because they find out later in the episode that this is just a reflection, how Nora remembers it, which obviously human memory is not perfect, so that she changed it to suit it, so that they made it so that Barry so that basically it makes it Nora see. That's how Nora sees her mother sometimes. But she goes on to say that it's just because I was angry and you were there. It's literally that was the only reason. And it basically says that Nora she's basically goes on to say later on in the episode that she's sorry for that. She doesn't think that of her anymore. She was just a scared kid. And that's what it goes on to do. But back in Grace's mind, she's basically figured out that Nora is lying to her and sends Cicada off after her. But this is you can see it's a woman cicada with the long hair. So that's why I think it's in the future Grace wakes up and becomes Cicada by taking up her uncle's mantle and killing more people. I don't think they're going to do that now because obviously it's a little kid, but I think it's going to definitely lead into something. Maybe Grace has a connection with Dwyer, I think his name is, and she's pulling the strings behind him or something like that. But yeah, so key things that happened in this episode were Iris Iris is now opening a legit paper. It's not just the blog that she's been working on. She's opening a legit paper because in the same building that Ralph's detective agency works out of, called the Central City Citizen, and that's the name of the title. That's the name of the newspaper that does it in the Time Vault. So Flash vanishes, missing in crisis. But she doesn't want to name it that because she thinks if she can change that, maybe she can change more in the future. I think that this just started off basically as an Easter egg. The newspaper basically started off as an Easter egg in the first episode, in the first season, but I just don't see that. I think that they're making it more the dates more a bigger deal than they need to be. I don't think it's going to be 2025 that they're going to go missing. I think what it is because in the same way the date changed from 2021 to 2019 for for the papers publishing it established. It's going to change the date from him vanishing from April. I think it's April 24th, 2020. 25th. I was this close. So yeah, the basic little thing is that the newspaper is just basically saying how she thinks that if she can change the name, then she can change the future and stop Barry from going missing. All I think that's going to do is bring it forward to the crisis that's going to happen next season. And bring it from April 24th, 2024 forward to whatever date, late in 20, because I think it's 2019 that this the episode's coming out. The crisis is happening late this year. If they're doing it from the same time as they did on Elseworlds. And the only other thing that really happened in this episode was that Cisco and Ralph basically went to a bar, and that was it really. There was some pretty cool parts that happened. It was a good episode and all. I see why people are getting annoyed at it, not annoyed at it, that I didn't think it was that good. I'm sort of in the middle, thinking it wasn't that bad. But yeah, now I think about it, I'm going to have the Red Death like image, I think, come up here, well, at the end of the video. But yeah, so a little bit of a thing before I go off. The last video was shit. That's literally what it was. The audio and the was lagging and stuff like that. I'm not going to upload a video like that anymore. It was 40 minutes long. Like, I spent 20 minutes talking about a show. Literally one just that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one video for one show. So I'm going to have a video about Arrow, video about Flash, video about Supergirl, Black Lightning, all of those shows. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I believe there are 14 comics I'm reading that have come out this week. I'm doing another video on that. I imagine I'm reading them on Saturday, and I'll do a video about them once I finish reading them, and it will be uploaded probably on Sunday, I imagine. But yeah, leave your thoughts down below. If you think this was any good, then let me know. If you want to say how I can improve on anything, I'm listening all the way. And yeah, I shall catch you all later. Bye.